Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet, weaving, all of the fibre related things. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope you enjoyed my little intro to this video. Just a little montage of some of the things that I have been getting up to throughout the month of January. It feels like it has been a while since I sat down and did one of these. This is going to be my January making roundup, and if you saw my thumbnail, there's a lot. Oh dear, I'm not sure what happened in January, but I guess the enthusiasm of the 12 cast-ons, that sort of creative burst of energy that I get around this time of year, has just carried through January, and I've got a whole stack of projects to chat to you about. I've got some crochet, I've got some knitting, and I've got a little bit of spinning to chat to you about as well. So a little bit of almost everything, which is really nice. So yeah, it feels like it's been a while since I've sat down and made a video like this. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. I hope you will forgive me. I have, of course, posted a ton of content over the last couple of months with Vlogmas and the 12 cast-ons, but it's just been a while since I've sat down and done one of these sort of more formal videos rather than a vlog style. Although I did do a similar-ish video, like a sit-down sort of video for Patreon this month. So over on Patreon, in January, I posted a video chatting about my spinning works in progress and my spinning goals for 2022. And also, I have most recently posted a second video over there where I did a little bit of a deep dive into one of my previous works in progress, chatting about how the yarn stood up, how the pattern has been going in terms of wearability, just taking a real deep dive into a project that I have sort of worn, used and loved for a long time. And I'm hoping to make that a little bit of a series where I go back and visit some finished objects from the past and just take a look at how they've worn over time. And I'm so close to meeting my community goal over on Patreon, which will mean that I post 2 videos over on Patreon a month rather than 1. And if that happens in the next few weeks, then I'm hoping to make that a regular series. So if Patreon is within your means and is something that you have been interested in, there's a link to the page below, and it's just a way for you to regularly support the content that I make, and in return I post exclusive videos over on that platform. Okay, back to what is going on here, and as I mentioned, I'm here to chat about my January makes. So where shall we start? Let's start with the biggest, shall we? I finished a big one. I managed to get my granny stripe crochet blanket done, and this has been a project that has been in progress for at least the last 3 Decembers. I can't remember exactly when I started it. My Ravelry notes are a little bit sketchy, but I know I've worked on it for the last 3 Advents at least, and I reckon I must have started it probably a year before that. So this is a huge sort of double bed size scrappy blanket made with all sorts of sock yarn scraps. So some of these are leftovers from my sock projects. Some of them are mini skeins that I've received in swaps, and particularly, as I say, the last 3 years I've been using skeins that I've received in my Advent mini swaps to complete this blanket. Now it is so big that it's going to be pretty impossible. I think this is the blanket folded in quarter. So yeah, it's not going to be easy at all to try and show this off. So what I think I will do is pop in a shot at some point where I lay this out on the bed, although that might be tricky at the moment because the cat was asleep on the bed a minute ago. But at some point over the next couple of days I'll try and grab a shot of this spread out on the bed so you can see it in its entirety. And yeah, if I do, I'll pop that in now. So many happy memories crocheted into this blanket, and I used the granny stripe blanket from the Attic 24 blog as a starting point. I'm sure many of you who are crocheters will know of Attic 24, but Lucy has some amazing free patterns over on her blog. A great starting point if you want to jump off into crochet. She has lots of really detailed instructions if you're new to crochet. I believe that I made mine on using a 3.5mm hook, although when I look at this my tension's a little bit different at the beginning than at the end, so it could be that somewhere along the line either my tension loosened up or I might have switched up hook sizes. Who knows? Who cares? I don't. Because I'm really pleased with the finished blanket, regardless of a few inconsistencies here or there, and I don't think, unless you really take a microscope to the blanket, that you're really going to notice. So granny stripe blanket, a huge one off of the list, and all I want to do is just sit here and wrap up, snuggle in it. Should we stop the video now? Best not. If I don't get this done today, it will never get done, so let's step away from the blanket. I think we shall move on to spinning next. My spinning has been a little bit less consistent in January, but that's okay. I have been trying to spin 15 minutes a day on my spindles, and I've had mixed success with that. I seem to get into a good habit with it, and then I sort of fell out of that habit for a few days, and I've struggled to kind of build that in and pick that back up again. But I know that I will get back to it because I love my spinning. But I feel like at the moment I haven't got a project to really get my teeth stuck into, which sounds a bit nutty now I'm saying it out loud, because I've got my Spin to Knit Love Note project that is a big one that I could get my teeth stuck into. My spindle spinning, I'm in the main trying to concentrate on spinning through my advent calendar minis, and that's a sort of big long-term project. So I do have, in that way, I've got plenty to get my teeth stuck into. However, they're both long-term projects, and I think what I really need is that sort of satisfaction of a finished project. So what I might need to do is grab a braid from my spinning cart and get that quick fix, that sort of palette cleanser, that finished skein of yarn. I think if I can perhaps make that a priority in February, that will reignite my spinning mojo a little bit more. I do have one finished little sample spin that I can share with you, and these were a couple of Rolags that I blended up on my blending board last year, and when I went through my spinning works in progress I realised that this project was really close to getting finished. So I spun up 2 singles on my supported spindles of this mix of grey Corriedale with some orange sari silk blended through, and then I applied them on this beautiful Schneider Turkish spindle that was a gift from our lovely community member here, Deb. So thank you so much, Deb. I really enjoyed plying up this little sample on this spindle. So just a really simple 2-ply sample and playing around with my Rolags that I blended up, and yeah, not much else to say about that yet. Obviously I needed to wind this off and wash it and set it to get sort of a final finished little sample of yarn. As well as working on that spindle spinning project to try and get that finished, I have also been working my way through several of the little nests of fibre that I received in my advent calendar. I purchased a fibre advent from the lovely Caroline of Colourful Creativity, and I have been spinning through some of the beautiful bumps of fibre that Caroline sent in that advent. As you can see, I'm working again on Turkish spindles for this one. I've managed to spin through 3 quantities of my 24 bumps of fibre, which is a little behind where I want to be. I think I'm going to aim to try and spin the singles for at least 1 bump of fibre per week, so I need to do a little bit of spinning catch up. But I took a little bit of pause because I've now got 3 different quantities of fibre. There's another one in the bag here as well that need plying up, so I thought before I get too far through just spinning all of the singles, I would just take pause and wait until I had a chance to ply. And I was trying to decide whether to completely complete that spin on spindles, which is why I was using this as a plying spindle, because my original thought was to maybe do all of the plying on this slightly heavier spindle, which is perfect for plying. However, as much as I did enjoy this has reminded me that although I love spinning on my spindles, I don't always enjoy plying on my spindles, so I think I'm actually going to ply those up on my wheel, and just if I'm making myself ply on the spindle and I don't really want to, then that's just an excuse for me to procrastinate. I'm hoping to knuckle down and get stuck a little bit more into my spinning again in February, so wish me luck for that. Finally, on to knitting. And I have a huge stack of knitting to share with you, all accessories. So I think by now you will have seen my little making vlog for the first project that I finished as part of my 12 cast-ons. This is the Staverness Touree hat, and it was one of the projects that I cast on, and it's my first hat that I'm going to be popping into my pile for donation. I don't have a particular charity in mind. I'm just going to be keeping my eyes open and my ears open, looking for places that might be in need of donated hats throughout the year. So yeah, I'm not going to dwell on this one too much because there is a whole vlog, but it's a Staverness Touree by, is it Lisa Malcolmson, and it was from a copy of the Shetland Wool Week annual, and I used a couple of yarns from my stash. This green is a bit of a mystery yarn. I think it was a Lang yarns, but I've lost the label, so I'm not sure. And then the white was some leftover Schillersdale yarn. And then I started straight away because I want hats to be kind of like my new sock knitting. So every time I cast off a hat, I want to get another one on the needles. And so I went a little bit hat crazy throughout the rest of January, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 other hats. How did that happen? Well, I can tell you. This is the fabulous snap hat pattern, which is a pattern from Tin Can Knits, and it was a pattern that was gifted to me by the lovely Mairead. So thank you so much for beginning this obsession for me, Mairead. And it's a great pattern for using up leftover yarns of pretty much any weight. Mine so far, I've been using strands of sock yarn held together, and you're basically knitting at a chunky yarn or a bulky weight yarn gauge. So for sock yarn scraps, I've been holding 4 strands of sock yarn together. So as you can imagine, a great stash buster if you've got leftover sock yarns from sock projects or from shawl projects or whatever you use your 4-ply yarns for. If you're like me, you've got a couple of baskets full of leftovers or mini skeins that you've collected, then this is a great way to use those leftovers. But the pattern also gives you some recommendations if you've got double knit yarn, if you've got Aran weight yarn, how to combine your yarns to get to about the right gauge that you need to finish one of these hats. So yeah, I've just had fun working my way through like a whole ton of my scraps, and you literally can use every single bit of yarn scrap that you've got left, because when one strand runs out, you just join in the next. So yeah, I became a little bit obsessed with this pattern, and therefore ended up with 9 of these hats in my finished pile for this month. And they really only take a couple of hours to knit, because you are knitting them at that sort of chunky, because you are basically knitting with chunky yarn. I think the hat's knit on a 6.5mm needle, and you're just basically knitting round and round. You knit the hat on like the normal sort of knit side, but then the finished hat you turn inside out, and the reverse stockinette stitch becomes the right side of the hat to wear, which I think, I love reverse stocking stitch or stockinette stitch, however you like to refer to it, particularly for blending colours together. I think it gives a real nice sort of painterly, like watercolory effect. So yeah, as someone who enjoys playing with colour, this pattern has just been an absolute blast to work on. So I've got 7 of my hats are going in my donation pile, and the original snap hat pattern has pom-poms on the top, and so far I've resisted the urge to put pom-poms on because I didn't know how practical that would be for donated hats. However, I think I might be putting pom-poms on this little batch, because my lovely friend Elizabeth, hi Elizabeth if you're watching, sent me a link about donating knitted items to the Oxfam charity, and one of the things suggested, which I don't know why this had never occurred to me before, was just to take your knitted items to the local charity shop and donate them so that they can sell them in the shop. And so for this batch of hats, because I've ended up making so many in 1 month, I might actually put pom-poms on and just take them down and donate them, because you know, if I saw this for sale in a local shop, I think I would be more than happy to pick it up, and I think a pom-pom would be a nice sort of addition. So yeah, I've still got plenty of yarn scraps, so I think I'm going to go back and blast through some more scraps and add sort of somewhat matching pom-poms to each of the hats that I've made so far. I did say that I made 9 and there's only 7 in that pile. The first hat that I made was this one. And again, if you watched my Stavaness Touri blog, you might have already seen that for some reason while I was knitting this hat, I just kept thinking about my brother's girlfriend. And I don't know if these are her colours or not really, but as I was just thinking about her a lot when I was knitting that hat, I decided that I'm going to keep this one and add it to my gift pile and give that to Katie, probably for Christmas. And then because I still had some yarns left over, I was using mostly sort of blue, pink and grey in this, and because I still had a whole batch of sort of blue, pink and grey yarns, I made a kids version as well. So this will be sort of somewhat matching hats for my brother's girlfriend and my niece, her daughter, so mummy and daughter hats. And I'm definitely going to put pom-poms on those. I'm going to make a pom-pom for my niece's hat, and then I think I'm going to get a faux fur pom-pom for Katie's hat. Enough chat about the snap hats, I think it is. Other than some of the scraps that I've used on the leftovers are leftovers from the donations that I received from a lot of the community members for our Socks for West Midlands Ambulance Service sock appeal last year. If you cast your mind back to the end of last year, or throughout last year, throughout 2021, we were knitting a lot of socks and adding heels, toes and cuffs to sock tubes to donate to the West Midlands Ambulance Service. And lots of kind folks donated yarn to that, and I had a few bits and pieces left over that I had reserved for heels, toes and cuffs that I ended up not needing to use. And as well as that, I think in November or December, the last package that Caroline sent me, she enclosed some more sock yarn that I just didn't have time to get that cranked up and turned into sock tubes. So I've been using any of those leftovers to go into these charity hats. So all of that yarn, eventually I've still got a little bit more left, but all of the yarn that was donated, any of those leftovers are going to be used up in the making of hats for another donation project. So I hope anyone who donated is kind of happy with that, that the leftovers are all going to good use. 2 more projects to share with you. The first is a secret knitting project, but by the time this video goes up, the secret will be out, so it's okay for me to share it with you now. So I am hopefully this weekend, it's Thursday as I'm recording this, but this won't go up until next week sometime. So this weekend I'm going away with a lovely group of friends. It's the same group of friends that I do one of my advent swaps with every year, or we have done for the last couple of years. And we went away a couple of years ago together for a weekend. We had planned to go away again, and then of course pandemic happened, so we postponed it, and we're hoping this weekend, providing all of our LFT tests results are negative and all that kind of stuff, we are hoping to all get together again this weekend for the first time in a couple of years, which will just be amazing. I can't wait. And as part of that weekend we do a little fun sort of knitting swap where we get randomly given someone else's name and a list of projects that they might be interested in receiving. Up until now we've all done socks, but this year we decided to mix things up, and if someone wanted something other than socks, then there was sort of like a little wish list. And I was given Jenny, the lovely Jenny of Cartchef Yarn, Owl About Yarn, the Knit Tea Retreat. I'm sure many of you will know Jenny, and Jenny had requested either some mittens or a cowl, so I have knit Jenny a cowl. And her favourite colour is purple, so I have made this version of the Astra cowl. And if you're wondering why this might look familiar, if you cast your mind back, I made myself a cowl, an Astra cowl, last year from some hand spun yarn that I had spun up on my spindles. So I enjoyed knitting that so much that I decided to knit Jenny a version of that cowl. I used 2 colours of Eden Cottage yarn, and I'm going to forget the yarn now, the name of the yarn. It's there, I haven't got the labels, it's downstairs. I'll try and pop it on the screen if I remember. It's their Blueface Leicester and Silk blend, and I used 2 colours, a purple and a sort of lovely rich sort of jewel tone, sort of almost royal blue. So yeah, I'm hoping to gift that to Jenny this weekend, and I hope she will enjoy wearing that. I'll keep her warm, hopefully. The pattern is by Amber O'Brien. It's such a lovely, it's a slip stitch pattern, so you don't have to be super practice with colour work techniques. You do still have to watch your stitches as you're doing the slip stitch. You do have to watch the sort of tension of the yarn that you're carrying, but yeah, it's a lovely way to work with a couple of colours if you're not confident with sort of stranded colour work. Yeah, it's a great way to do that. So if you're looking for a cowl pattern, I can highly recommend that one. It's the Astra Cowl by Amber O'Brien. And then I have one final project to share with you, and this was a little bit of a last minute cast on and cast off. Yes, I know I've just finished casting on all of the things. Why am I casting on more projects? Hey, that's just the way it goes. I was trying to resist, but who was I kidding? Of course I'm going to join in Imagined Landscapes Year of the Gnome. Sarah Shearer, who is the designer behind the Imagined Landscape sort of brand, has over the last few years come out with 12 design patterns for gorgeous little gnome friends. I've got a few sat on the shelf behind me, and this year she's hosting a year-long make-along where the idea is just to make a gnome a month for each month of 2022, and you don't have to make all 12 patterns. You can just have one pattern and make 12 of the same design if you want to. Tried to resist the urge, but who was I kidding? Of course I was going to join in. So during the last few days of January, I knit up Norwin. This is the Not Another Gnome, I think. Can't remember which pattern she's from. Again, I'll try and remember to put it on the screen. For mine, I often use my hand spun yarns, but I did a combination for this one. So the gold sparkly yarn that forms the hat, the mittens and her bottom. That is a mini skein from my Fibre Advent from 2020, which was from the Shepherd's Hut, if I remember rightly. And so I picked that one out and decided to use that as one of my colours, and I combined it with this beautiful mini skein, this sort of rusty browny orange colour, which is just absolutely glorious. And this was naturally dyed by my lovely friend Charlie of Charlie Button Yarns, and this was also gifted to me as part of the 2020 Advent swap that we did. And all of my other mini skeins went into my crochet blanket, but this one, the colour was just absolutely glorious, and I decided to keep it. When I decided to knit this gnome, I thought it paired quite nicely with the gold hand spun, so I was so pleased to finally find a lovely use for this beautiful mini skein. And then I just used a scrap of sort of hand spun leftovers to make gnome's braid, and a little scrap of hand spun for the nose too. So yeah, it didn't take me long to make up, and now I'm committed. I need to make 11 more gnomes throughout 2022, because yeah, more projects is exactly what I needed. So that is everything that I made in January, and it's quite a lot, isn't it? Quite a lot when I sit here and look at it. But those, honestly, those snap hats just knit up like you wouldn't even believe. And the crochet blanket was almost done, so yeah, made quite a lot of progress. I did also knit on my sea glass tee, not a finished object, but a work in progress. And let me just share with you. It's going to be a little tricky to share with you, but again, this is one of my 12 cast-ons, and I made some reasonable progress knitting my sea glass tee. It's really difficult to show because the cable is quite short and it's a bit scrunched up, but this is a pattern by Woolen Pine. Again, I'll try and remember to put details on the screen or underneath, and it's a sort of 1x1 colour work pattern all over, and you just mix in lots of leftovers. And if you want to, I picked a bunch of skeins from my stash to knit this with, inspired by this beautiful green, which was gifted to me by the lovely Andy and Angela of Attic Spin Dye. They sent this to me at the end of last year, and this was the inspiration for starting this, and I just paired it together with a whole bunch of green colour yarns, basically from my stash. So yeah, I've been really enjoying this. There's still plenty of work to go. Obviously, it's a fairly slow knit. It's 4-ply yarn. It's 1x1 colour work all the way through. So that's going to be a project that I think follows me through quite a few months, if not longer, of 2022. That's everything for the making. Before I sign off, I've got a couple of thank yous to say. A few lovely packages have come my way in the last few weeks, and I want to say a big thank you to Sarah and to another lovely friend of the podcast, as well as Andrea, who have all sent me fibre, yarn. Sarah sent me 2 big boxes full of yarn. She's been having a little bit of a sort out ahead of moving house, and she's donated a whole bunch of stuff for podcast prizes, some beautiful yarn. She's also sent some fibre. She did very kindly say that I could pick out some things if I wanted to keep some myself, and I might keep some of the fibre. I might blend some up for future prizes. And there's one particular yarn that I've got my eye on as well, so I might snaffle myself a skein of yarn. But yeah, I've got loads of lovely podcast prizes to share for upcoming giveaways. I also had some other lovely fibre donated by a friend of the podcast for my blending board experiments and my drum carding experiments, which I'm super grateful for. So thank you so much. You know who you are. I really appreciate it. And again, I might share some of that good fortune and mix up some things to give away on the podcast as well. And also a big thank you to the lovely Andrea, who donated a needle felting kit as a prize for our giveaways as well. So I'll share a little bit more in detail those sort of things that have been sent for giveaways when the time comes. So I've got some thoughts for future giveaways here on the channel. What I'm thinking about doing, obviously we're going to have a monthly prize draw for the 12 cast-ons make along, and I'm sure I'll start some more make alongs as the year progresses. What I'm thinking about doing is putting little prize packages together and then taking photographs of them, so that I've got photographs to share, and then winners can pick the prizes that they want, rather than me sort of assigning particular prizes to particular giveaways, if that makes sense. Anyway, we don't need to chat about that now. I can firm that up and give you more details on that as and when. And then, as well as the podcast prizes, I also had a fabulous little package for Mairead. So thank you so much, Mairead. You're so kind. During the 12 cast-ons, we were talking about, I think it might have been Terry's cast-on, and Terry had cast on with some Gilliatt yarn, the Durarum Natura. I never quite know if I'm pronouncing that right. And Mairead said that she had a ball of it left over from a project, and would I like to try it, because this is a yarn I've been itching to try for the longest time. I've never seen it anywhere in person and just never sort of got round to ordering any. So Mairead very kindly said that she would send her leftover ball for me to try out, which is just amazing. And along with that, she also sent a few other sort of colours leftovers, so that I can have a play around with colour work as well. Aren't they gorgeous? Beautiful. So I'm so grateful for that. There are so many wonderful and kind folks in this community, and yeah, I'm just thankful and grateful for all of you every day. Okay, so I think before I get too overcome again, it is time for me to wrap up today's video. I do hope that you've had a gentle start to your year, and if for any reason it has been tricky for you, then know that I'm thinking about you and sending lots of love your way. Let me know in the comments below what you've been working on in January. Have you been working on your 12 cast-on projects? Have you been working on other works in progress? Do let me know, and let me know if you've finished anything as well. I'm going to come back soon with a prize draw for the 12 cast-ons. We have now finished the cast-on portion of our make-along, so I'll be doing the prize draw for that, but I am planning on having regular monthly prize draws for people who finish the projects that they've cast on throughout the year. So there's no rush. We're going to be doing this every month for the whole of 2022, or as long as there are finished objects to pull for prizes from. So yeah, it's just a way to help encourage us to progress and hopefully finish some of the projects that we have cast on. So yeah, I'll be back again soon with some prize announcements. I think I'm going to be back again soon with my February making plans, so plenty of stuff coming up on the channel. So I hope you will join me for the next video, but until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.